Hey guys, today I'm filming my ColourPop hits and misses. I actually filmed this video yesterday, but it didn't turn out, so I'm redoing it today. But it actually worked out for the best because I decided I wanted to make some changes with this video. So this is going to be a ColourPop week. I'm going to have my hits and misses, then a review of the summer collection and the Yes Please palette, and then I'm going to have a chit chat get ready with me with the Yes Please palette. So in this video yesterday, I went on and on and on. Obviously, it was an hour long, and I had given you guys my thoughts on ColourPop coming to Sephora, all of ColourPop's new releases, and whether I think that ColourPop products are a good value. But I decided to not talk about that today, and instead I'm going to save that for my ColourPop chit chat get ready with me. Also, I was reviewing every single ColourPop product, even the ones that I don't own. It's because I wasn't interested in them and I was telling you why I didn't want them. So instead of telling you guys all that, I feel like I shouldn't anyway because I haven't actually tested them to really review. So in the description box, I am gonna let you guys know what things I haven't tried and the reason why I'm not interested in them. And in the video today where I'm talking with you, I'm just gonna be talking about the things that I've actually tried, which I think was what I should have done in the first place. So you guys know that ColourPop is one of my favorite brands. I have so many Super Shock shadows, I don't even want to admit it to myself. I've tried out so many of their products. I have done individual reviews on every single item that I've tried from them. I've also done some collection reviews. I did a ColourPop favorites, a top 10 Super Shock shadow, top 10 lippies. All of those videos I will have linked down below so you guys can have more information on all of the products. And I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, starting with face products. And I want to start by talking about ColourPop Super Shock cheek products for bronzers, blushes, and highlights. These all retail for $8 each. The bronzers have recently been discontinued, which I'm very happy about because I thought that was definitely a miss for ColourPop. But of course, they did start out with all these Super Shock products. They didn't start out with powders. That is a newer development for them, which I'm very happy that they've done because powder products are just easier to work with than creams. And even though these are not traditional creams, that almost makes them a little bit trickier to work with. So the bronzers actually had a decent shade selection. I think they had about 6 shades from very light to very deep. They had satin finishes and matte finishes. But these were so incredibly hard to work with. They were so firm in that pan that it was very hard to get product on a brush. And once you did get it on a brush and get it on your face, you couldn't blend it out. It was so stiff and just running back and forth with a brush, hard as crap, digging in your face is gonna patch off your foundation. It isn't gonna blend out the bronzer. So for that reason, it was way too hard for me to work with. The best brushes to work with them would definitely be the Real Techniques face brushes. These work the best with the ColourPop Super Shock cheeks for me. So that was definitely a miss. Then for the Super Shock blushes, as I said, these are $8. They come in 18 different shades and they have 2 finishes, satin and matte. These are just like the bronzers. So they are very, very stiff, very firm in the pan, so it is very hard to get on a brush. This is a matte finish and this is a satin, and as you can see, the satin just has a little bit of a sheen to it, so it doesn't look shimmery on your cheeks at all. It just has a little bit of a healthy glow, and they look very similar on the cheeks, but I do prefer the satin because it's a little bit creamier and a little bit easier to work with than the mattes. And the brush that I use with those is the Real Techniques buffing brush. The size of this is really good for my cheeks and it has a good amount of density, and also because of the bristles, it can work with powder and cream. So I definitely recommend this brush if you are going to be using these. And these are just like the bronzers. They're hard to pick up on your brush, and once you get them on your face, they are hard to blend out. So I would not recommend the ColourPop Super Shock blushes. I'm probably going to end up decluttering all of them except for Cheerio because it is a very unique color and this is a satin finish, so it is easier to work with. But I do not recommend these at all, and I really look forward to when ColourPop releases their pressed powder blushes. Now I know they did introduce them in little highlight blush duos for the spring collection, but none of those shades look like ones that I would enjoy or would flatter me, so I didn't purchase them. But I cannot wait for ColourPop to release those because these leave much to be desired. And then we have the Super Shock highlighters. Again, retail for $8. They currently are available in 22 different shades, which is very impressive. And they also have some really cool holographic pink and blue and purple highlights, which is really unique. And the highlighter formula is very different from a blush and a bronzer. It is a lot thinner, it is a lot creamier, more smooth, but it also can feel a little bit greasy and I don't know, it's a little too thin for me. I had a very hard time working with these. I'm an oily skin person and I do powder my face. The only good thing about the bronzers and the blushes is that they went over top of powder really well, but the highlights definitely do not. And then I tried applying them on my cheekbones without powder and they still didn't work. It was too intense and then I couldn't blend it out, and as I tried to blend it out, it was patching off my foundation and it looked a freaking hot mess. A lot of people love them. It could have been user error, but it was just way too difficult for me to work with, and with the kind of skin I have and the products that I like, we just were not a good fit. So for me personally, those highlights are definitely a miss. Moving on to brows, ColourPop has a brow pencil and a brow pomade. The pencil retails for $5 and it comes in 8 shades, and the pomade is $6 and it comes in 8 shades. I have not tried the pomade before because pomades are not my thing, but I did try the pencil and it was awesome. First off, the color selection is great because they have 2 shades for blonde, a taupey color, 2 for redheads, I think 2 or 3 different brunette shades, and then they do have a jet black color, which is amazing. That's a very good color selection, almost up there with the ABH color selection for brows, so I was really impressed with that. So this was a very precise, skinny mechanical pencil, but it wasn't as tiny of a point as the NYX Micro Brow or the Anastasia Brow Wiz. It was more similar to the size of the Maybelline Definer Brow or the MAC Eyebrow Pencil, and it was the same as those brow pencils with a mechanism because you could turn it up, you cannot turn it back down, which is something very important to note. Don't be trying to measure how much product you have left because then it's ruined and you cannot get it back in the tube. But I thought it was incredible. It was an amazing color, one of the lightest cool tone blonde brow pencils I've ever seen. In terms of waxiness or creaminess, it was leaning more on the creamy side, but I found like it had a decent amount of waxiness to it. I always set my brow pencil with powder to make it set in place and be even more pigmented, so I absolutely love it. I think that is definitely a hit. I would totally recommend it and repurchase that in the future because it is very, very affordable. Only $5 for a brow pencil is great considering NYX Micro Brow is 10 bucks. Moving on to the eyes, for Super Shock Shadows, they retail for $5 and I'm pretty sure if I counted correctly, they are currently available in 105 shades, which is amazing, and not even counting all of the different limited edition and discontinued shades that they've had in the past. So for the Super Shock Shadows, they come in multiple different finishes. I think ColourPop has changed the names of the finishes over the years, but I am going to tell you the finishes that I am aware of and familiar with. They have matte, satin, pearlized, ultra metallic, and ultra glitters. So of course with all of these finishes, there are some shades that are special enough to make me love them, but in general, my favorites are the pearlized and the ultra metallics because they have a lot of pigment, a lot of beautiful shine, but they have 0 pieces of glitter in them. The finishes in the middle for me would definitely be the satins and the mattes. They aren't as easy to work with, but I found brushes that I love with them, and if it's a color that I really love, I might buy some more in the future, but they're definitely not my favorites. But my least favorite finishes are definitely the metallic and the ultra glitters. Now some of my holy grail shades, Amaze and Sequin, are the metallic shades, and I will purchase them over and over again for the rest of my life because I love the colors. But those do have a lot of glitter fallout, so I often will have to put a tissue under my eye when I'm applying them, and I will still get glitter fallout throughout the day. So those are just my opinions on the finishes, and luckily ColourPop releases a ton of eyeshadows in the pearlized finish. I love the Super Shock Shadows. I find them very easy to work with. The best ways to apply them would be with a synthetic brush, to use your fingers, or to use a sponge tip applicator. I usually like using a sponge tip applicator to get the precision, and then I will go back in with my finger to really intensify the color. That's what I've always done and works really, really well for me. So I think that these Super Shock Shadows are definitely a huge hit, and again, my favorite finishes of all time are the pearlized and the ultra metallic. So next I wanted to talk about a newer-ish development for them, and that would be the pressed powder shadows. I think they released these at the very beginning of the year. These are also $5 a piece, even though on the website right now they're on sale for $4. They've been on sale like all summer long, so I recommend you get them while you can save a buck, because why not? Also, if you buy 4 shadows, you do get a free little quad to put them in, and currently, if I counted correctly, there are 86 shades available, which is insane considering that they I haven't had these out for that long. These eyeshadows come in 3 different finishes: metallic, satin, and matte. Now the satin finishes are basically a dull shimmer. Only a few shades are available in the satin finish. Most of them are metallics or mattes. And I absolutely love the matte shadows. I find them very pigmented, but they're easy to blend out, easy to build. They're a very nice formula and really easy to work with. Definitely on par with the Makeup Geek shadows. But for the shimmer shadows, I do still like them, but I don't think they're as amazing as the Makeup Geek shadows are. And I think that these have a nice metallic sheen to them, but it can look a little dull. So what I think is necessary for these shadows to get the best effect is layering these over top of a cream shadow base. And that's definitely not a negative for me, because I do that with all of my eyeshadows on my lid except for the Super Shocks. But with every other brand, I always put a cream base underneath. So I think that is essential to get the best effect with these shadows. But if I could ultimately pick, if you're asking me whether I would recommend Super Shocks or the pressed powder shadows, if I was gonna get my most perfect look, I would actually wear a Super Shock on the lid and a pressed powder matte in the crease. That is definitely what I think is easiest to work with and I like the look of best. So that's what I would personally recommend. And then we have their eyeshadow palettes. This is the Yes Please palette. And they also recently released one with the Karrueche collection called She. So these palettes are $16. They come with 12 different shades, and these are smaller than a standard shadow. It doesn't bother me because a 12 pan Urban Decay palette costs 54 bucks. This is 16 bucks. I do not care if it is smaller because it's not like I'm gonna run through it in any quick amount of time because I have so many shadows. This is supposed to be a very similar comparison palette to the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. I believe almost every single one of these shades is a dupe for the Natasha Denona. I think this is great quality. I highly recommend this. I think that the formula of the shades in the palette is exactly the same as the individual shades, and they're an amazing value. I personally did not buy the Karrueche palette, even though it's gorgeous, because I already have similar shades from ColourPop Valentine's collection. But my friend Lauren May Beauty did do a review swatch comparison video of the Karrueche palette and the Valentine's eyeshadow, so I'll have that linked up here. I cannot wait for them to release more in the future because if I love the colors, I'll definitely be picking them up because they're an amazing value and they perform really well. Moving on to liners, ColourPop has Creme Gel Liners and Creme Gel Colors. When they originally released these, they were all matching shades, but since then they have discontinued a lot of the shades, but originally they did all match. So starting with the Creme Gel Liners, these retail for $5 and they are currently available in 20 different shades. These come in 2 different finishes, metallic and matte. I have only tried the matte shades. These are very pigmented and very smooth, a little bit on the drier side, where they do go on to my waterline nicely without tugging, but they aren't so creamy that they're gonna just slide right off the waterline. These last really well and they're very pigmented, which is incredibly impressive for pastel shades. This is Zulu, a mint shade, and this is Prance, a periwinkle blue. These are incredible colors. I'm very impressed with the pigmentation and the way that they wear on the waterline, but these are way too dry to put on the upper lash line, but these do not work at all on the upper lash line. I feel like you definitely have to pull your eye to make it as smooth as possible, or this is going to skip. It is not going to apply evenly because it is just not the right texture to really glide on the upper lash line. But that makes them the perfect texture to go on the waterline. The biggest con about them is that they both have detached from the base, but even worse than that, almost every time I will apply them, a little chunk will break off. So if you try to apply this on your upper lash line, it is going to break off like crazy. But in your waterline, it doesn't break as bad, but I would recommend just twisting up a little bit at a time. And I feel kind of iffy on these liners. I love these colors. I love the way they perform. I love the way that they last in the waterline. These are liners I want to use up next year. I would contemplate repurchasing them because I love them in the spring, but I would only recommend these if you guys don't mind, you're probably going to end up losing half of the product to breaking. Now, I have not tried the metallic finishes. Those might perform differently. If you've tried them, let me know. I'm so bummed that these break because otherwise they'd be absolutely perfect, but that is a huge, huge bummer for me. And then we have the Creme Gel Colors, which are the gel liners. They retail for $6 and they're currently only available in 4 different shades, and they have 2 finishes, mattes and metallics. But a ton of these have been discontinued. I'm assuming because people weren't buying them after the original release and people just weren't liking them. So I think the ones that they still have available would be the maroon, a black, the Kathleen Lights Warm Brown, and 1 other shade. But they don't have any of the bright, cool colors anymore, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I don't think these were very good quality. So I do have one of the matte finishes in Zulu. It is the same beautiful color. It is very pigmented, but this is so thick and gummy feeling that it is very hard to work with and get it to apply nicely and evenly on your eye. This is way too thick and goopy to use as an eye base, but then the metallic finishes are different. This is in the shade Get Paid. The metallic finishes are a lot thinner, a lot creamier. I still don't love them as a gel liner, but I was using this for a while as an eye base and it did work nicely because it was very pigmented. The shadows did stick to it. It lasted well on the eye, but it flaked off and made my eyeshadow flake off in little pieces. You definitely cannot touch your eye, or chunks were going to be everywhere. So I was originally really liking this, but no. So I think the gel liners are a big old fail. Both of the formulas, I definitely do not recommend these. So now moving on to lips. The Lippie Primer retails for $5. It comes in the same packaging as their Lippie Stix. I did recently toss mine because I hated it. It did nothing. It did not keep my lip product from feathering or fading. It did not moisturize my lips. Literally, it was just an extra step that did absolutely nothing. It didn't smooth them out, nothing. So I would definitely recommend you save your $5 or you buy a Lippie stick instead, because that lip primer is totally a gimmick. Moving on to the Lippie Pencil, which would be their lip liners. These retail for $5 and are currently available in 54 shades, which is so impressive. I think that's even a larger shade selection than MAC. These lip liners are very, very pigmented and creamy. I find that they don't bleed or feather, but I don't usually have that problem with my lip liners. And the reason that I love these is because they're so smooth. I can line my lips, but I can also fill them in completely, which I really like to do. And with most lip liners, they're way too thick or dry to do that, but this one works perfectly. So I personally use lip liners to help define my lip line, not to keep products from feathering, which might be why I love these a lot. Some people don't like them, but I think they're incredible. I also love wearing these all over as a lipstick. I think that I actually enjoy this formula more than the Lippie Stix, but these are incredible. And there are quite a few shades that are dupes for MAC lip liners, which is awesome, but these are absolutely amazing. I highly, highly recommend the ColourPop lip liners. Next, we have the ColourPop Lippie Stix. These retail for $5. They come in 60 different shades. Those are the ones that are currently available, and they have multiple different finishes. So as I was doing the research for this video, I realized that ColourPop discontinued a lot of the finishes. So the discontinued finishes would be the glossy, hyper glossy, pearlized, and sheer. The glossy and the hyper glossy I didn't like. I felt like they were really goopy and heavy on the lips, and they tended to pull away from the center. So I didn't like those at all. So I'm not sad those are gone. The pearlized, there were only a couple shades in that finish, and it's kind of just like a pearly metallic looking lip, which I'm not into. And then the sheer finishes I actually really enjoyed. I do have a nude in Kiddo, which is one of my all-time favorite Lippie Stix. I think they actually had good pigmentation and they wore really well. So I'm very bummed that they discontinued those because I thought they were great. So the finishes that are currently available would be Cream, Satin, Matte, and Matte X. And I personally only like Matte and Matte X. The creams, to me, are still like a glossy formula. They are a little bit thicker, and the Lippie Stix have a vanilla scent, but for some reason the cream finishes have a more intense vanilla where it smells like sugary syrup, which for me is too sickeningly sweet, and I cannot stand the scent of those. And again, it does the part where it pulls away from the center of my lip a little bit. Not as bad as the glossy and the hyper glossy, but I definitely do not really care for that finish. These satins for me perform like a regular cream. They're okay, but I don't love them. And my favorite finishes, as I said, are Matte and Matte X. So the way that ColourPop describes their finishes compared to other brands, I wouldn't quite say they're the same. For me, the mattes go on as more of a satin, and the Matte X finishes perform like a matte. So the ColourPop matte finishes do have a tiny bit of a sheen to them, but I think that they're very comfortable. They're very creamy. So I do like those. I find they wear really well, but I really love the Matte X finishes. They are very thin, almost silicone-y, but not in a slippery way, just in a very thin, smooth way. They're very pigmented and they last for such a long time while remaining comfortable the entire time. So I highly recommend the Matte and Matte X finishes. And then we have the ColourPop Ultra Glossy Lip, retails for $6 and it comes in 22 shades. There are also 3 different finishes: sheer, cream, and metallic. So ColourPop originally had a lot more shades, but apparently they discontinued a bunch of them. I only have 2 Ultra Glossy lips and they're both in the cream finish, which I love because it has a medium opacity. It is very smooth, not sticky whatsoever. The sheers I'm not interested in, and I also don't like a metallic lip, but I've heard that those are actually very pigmented and an amazing quality metallic lip color. So if you're interested in the metallic lip trend, I'd recommend those. But for me, the only formula I want to use would be the creams. This is in the shade Aquarius. Absolutely love it. Highly recommend the cream finish Ultra Glossy lips. Next, I have the ColourPop Ultra Satin Lip. It retails for $6. It comes in 42 different shades. These are very pigmented, they're very comfortable, and they're very long wearing, but they are not a dry down, transfer proof matte finish liquid lip. That's why I love them. This one I have here is in the shade Molly. These are almost perfect lip products for me. But the negative thing I have to say is that between 6 months to a year, these start to turn and smell like rancid glue. It is absolutely terrible. If you guys have your Ultra Satin lips, smell them and let me know if yours stink too. Now, I've had matte lips for over a year and they are just fine, but something about the formula of these satin lips smell like glue after 6 months or so, which is such a huge bummer because for me, I love the shade Molly in the summer. So I'm gonna rock it in the summer and then save it till the next summer and bring it out again. Well, by the time it gets to next summer, this is going to have gone bad and I will have to toss it, which is a huge bummer. And now in the future, I'm really gonna have to be very careful and really think about the ones that I would love the colors enough to throw them out in 6 months. So I'm gonna be more likely to pick up some everyday shades. And I actually have already repurchased this one because it went bad on me, but I'm just thinking about it and I'm gonna have to buy another one next year because I love this purple so much. So let me know if you've had that experience, but that is a huge negative. And I don't necessarily know it's gonna do anything bad to my lips, but because I have had bad reactions from expired lip products before, I don't wanna take my chances. So that's a huge, huge negative because this was one of my all-time favorite lip products. And lastly, for lips is the Ultra Matte Lip, retails for $6. It is available in 57 different shades. This is a fully opaque liquid lip that is a very thin, runny consistency, and it does dry down to a completely transfer-proof matte finish. ColourPop has changed the formula of these at least 3 different times, and the original formula was my favorite. Since then, I've gotten some colors I love, like Aquarius 2, and then I also have this shade Fresh Cut from their pink collection that I think is very, very drying. So these are very drying. They do really accentuate all of your lip lines, and I liked these, but now I have other liquid lipsticks that I prefer. So again, I'm going to be very, very particular about the shades I buy in the future because I know I'm not going to reach for these over other liquid lips because they're not comfortable. I have a couple shades that I absolutely love and will continue to repurchase, but other than that, I don't know. I'm just not in love with the formula like I used to be. And the last things I have would be 2 ColourPop brushes. And I think that these have been discontinued now, even though they just released these at the beginning of the year. This is the eyelid shader brush, and this is the blending brush. I did do an entire review and demo, and these work so well with the Super Shock shadows. Of course, I use this one on the lid. I used it today, and I love using this one to apply the matte finish Super Shock shadows in my crease. This one also works great with regular powder shadows. But they've gotten rid of these already, and now they have a new brush line, and the brushes look different. The bristles look different. So I'm not sure if they are going to perform the same as these, which is a bummer because I love these a lot. I'm not going to buy the new brushes, but I'm glad that I was able to get these because I think that they work perfectly for those super shock shadows. So guys, that was my ColourPop hits and misses. I would love to know your thoughts on all of these products, and please let me know your thoughts on the other items I didn't mention that I haven't tried. Let me know what are your favorite and least favorite items from ColourPop. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.